Joining us now for the latest on this election cycle is Brad Polumbo, the Deputy Opinion Contributors Editor for the Washington Examiner. Brad, last time we talked, we were talking about the Larry King video. That was the big corroborating evidence when it came to Tara Reade's allegations. Since then, we've seen neighbors come forward corroborating what she said once again, and now we see this latest court document saying that her husband had knowledge of these allegations. Does this change anything for the Biden campaign?
Well, this accusation isn't going anywhere, Alex, because it only seems to be getting stronger, not weaker. Now, I still firmly believe that this is an unproven charge and that Joe Biden deserves the benefit of the doubt like anybody else, but by his own rules, by the standard that he advocated during Brett Kavanaugh, which was to take any woman and assume she's telling the truth, by the standard that he wants to impose on college students. He just promised to overturn Betsy DeVos's pro-due process Title IX reforms. By any of these standards that Joe Biden and Democrats more broadly have set up, Joe Biden should be done and dusted with this accusation if they really want to believe all women. But just like that clip you played from Senator Dianne Feinstein shows, the Democrats are just doing a complete 180 now that it's their ideological ally. And that's just reprehensible, frankly.
And I think what you say is spot on. This is the standard that they wanted applied when it was convenient for them at the time. We could look back at what happened to Brett Kavanaugh, and that was the whole argument, is maybe this did happen to Dr. Blasey Ford, but we deserve the presumption of innocence in the United States. That's the way that our legal system works, but that's not the standard that they wanted to apply at the time. So if we do want to follow that standard, do you think that we should see maybe a Brett Kavanaugh, Christine Blasey Ford type of public hearing when it comes to Tara Reade and Joe Biden?
Well, I just don't know that mechanically how that would work out. That would get complicated very quickly, and I don't know that that's something that's going to happen. I highly doubt it because Joe Biden's team is interested in calling as little attention as possible, and I don't think Senate Democrats would go along with it, or Mitch McConnell to try to hold a hearing on his own. So I don't think we're going to see that play out in another situation. Honestly, though, what seems to be the likely future is that this allegation is just going to linger and haunt Joe Biden through November, right? He's not getting away from this. There's too many clips of him saying, believe all women, believe all survivors. This isn't going anywhere over him, especially because, Joe Biden has painted himself as the anti-Trump. What does Joe Biden really stand for in terms of policy? We don't know. It's standard Democrat, right? But that's not what's motivating his campaign. What's motivating his campaign is he points, sometimes with reason, at Donald Trump and says, this guy doesn't have a strong character. I do. I'm a competent leader who you can trust. This really undermines his case for that, Alex. And so it remains to be seen how this will play out, but it's really not good news for the Biden campaign.
And I would say it's not good news for the Democratic Party as a whole. Just last week, I believe it was Joe Biden saying that he wanted to act as a vessel for the Pete Buttigieg's of the world, as he put it, in order to get them back into politics. And I've heard a lot of people say that as well. We don't necessarily have to trust Joe Biden so much because he's going to put together a very strong cabinet. And I don't think the American voters vote based on who will be in the cabinet. I think they're electing the man who they want to lead when it comes to November. It's either going to be President Trump or, in this case, Joe Biden. So big picture, how is the Biden campaign doing at the moment?
Well, it's not doing well. I've been saying they've been limping towards the finish line. If they win, it will simply be because President Trump is a historically divisive president. Whether you like him or hate him, he splits people down the middle and people take strong sides. So Joe Biden, if he wins, it will because people are looking to go back to the normal amid a crisis, perhaps, and that's what he can offer. But he's a really weak candidate, and he's only getting weaker. I think I will say, though, part of the problem is that I think this should be devastating for the Biden campaign, this Me Too hypocrisy. But because he's running against President Trump, it makes it harder. You got to remember that there are over a dozen women who have accused President Trump. Unproven, sure, but those accusations make it harder for his campaign to do what they're doing, where they're putting out advertisements about Joe Biden's accuser. It makes it harder for them to do that with credibility when they've got egg on their own face as well. So I think if it was a different situation where you didn't have President Trump as the incumbent, then this would sink the Biden campaign, but he's always going to be able to point out and say, hey, Trump's even worse. That's what all Biden defenders are saying anytime this is brought up. So I think we're going to end up with a race between two alleged sexual predators, And then a third-party candidate, Justin Amash, looks like he's going to be the only one who hasn't been accused of #MeToo.
Yeah, and I think that also speaks to why a lot of people are saying that maybe Biden isn't the right guy to go up against President Trump. You were saying that he wants to frame himself as the anti-President Trump, and I mean, there's things that he's anti or on the other issue on that aren't necessarily advantageous to him, whether it be his support for NAFTA, whether it be his vote for the Iraq War, and now what you're saying right now, he can't even counter those sexual misconduct type of allegations because he himself is now facing the same type of allegations. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the Trump campaign capitalizes on this, if they even want to make it an issue at all going to November, or if they just let the media kind of deal with it. But Brad Polumbo, I appreciate you coming on tonight. Thanks for joining us.